I believe you were playing guitar from the age of 10. Did you harbour ambitions for a career in music at that young age?
Well, yeah, I suppose I did. You know, I was attracted to music at a really young age, and my dad had a guitar. You know, I used to watch him play. He was very uninhibited, high-spirited kind of person when he played a guitar. He only knew like 2.5 chords, but anyway, yeah, I really just sort of was excited by all that stuff from pretty young. And then, you know, as I got older, it just, you know, I was kind of wary of the adult world when I was a kid, and the older I got, you know, the idea anyway, yeah, I was pretty obsessed with music as a kid. I finally got a guitar at age 10, as you said, and started learning to play. That was a while ago. I was born in 1953.
It's widely known that an early career move of yours was playing the part of John Lennon in the stage production of Beatlemania. How do you look back on that experience now, and the show itself as a whole?
When I first heard about the show, I was, you know, a Beatles fan and living in the Detroit area. I saw a big article about Beatlemania in Time magazine, and I thought it was really crass, and I was appalled by it, you know, with these guys with wigs and fake mustaches, and I just thought it was extremely goofy and you know, but then a couple of years went by, and I was like kind of scuffling around the country, just trying to find some sort of foothold in the world, and an opportunity arose for me to audition for the show, and I did, and I got the gig, and you know, it was really beneficial to me at the time. It's really sort of like turned my life upside down in a good way. I wound up in New York City. I never would have gone there otherwise. It was just a complete fluke, but I got there, and you know, things really just started to explode for me for a little while. That was really, so I'm really grateful for it. The other cool thing was I met a lot of people who are still friends of mine, you know, guys my own age who had sort of similar ambitions to mine, and so it was a good thing. I got tired of doing it after about 18 months. It just really started to wear me down. I got very bored with it, the regimentation of it, and but while it lasted, it was a good thing.
Now, of course, in later years, you got the opportunity to play another music legend in Buddy Holly in the La Bamba movie. Were you, I believe you were initially reluctant to do that?
I was, you know. A friend of mine from high school who was out in L.A. trying to make it as an actor, this guy named Carl Bressler, and he's been in a few movies, in fact. But anyway, I got a call from him one day, and he had heard through the grapevine that they were going to call me and ask me to be in La Bamba. And I think he expected me to kind of jump for joy, but, you know, I can't really explain this, but at the time I just thought, you know, my first couple of records had come out, the critics had compared me to Buddy Holly, which now I'm really flattered by, but back then I just thought, well, you know, it's a bummer to be compared to someone else. Why don't they just talk about how great I am in my own right? You know, it's some stupid, immature reaction on my part. But anyway, I got this call, and then from my friend, and then a couple of days later I heard from, I think it was Taylor Hackford, and so I just kind of let that sink in, and then I wound up doing it. And that's another thing that I, you know, I'm really happy that happened, and it was great, you know, it was great.
Now, you were born in Detroit.
I love the fact now that I've had this kind of name association, or this connection in a lot of people's minds to Buddy Holly. I mean, I think it's really cool. I do really admire him still. You know, he was just a kid when he died, and I'm, you know, like over twice as old as he was when he died. Well over twice as old.
Yeah.
But you know, I still really have a high regard for him as an artist, and he was an interesting person too, you know. So it's cool.
Absolutely. You were born in Detroit, Michigan, which is a city with has provided some wonderful music over the years. Who were some of your local heroes there growing up?
Well, you know, it's a diverse kind of musical environment. You know, there's lots of transplanted Southern people in the Detroit area, including my dad's family. You know, I tell people that I'm half hillbilly, and you know, there's a lot of when I was growing up on the radio, there was a lot of R&B. There was the first guy that I ever noticed from the area who was a musical inspiration was a guy named Jack Scott. When I was a really little kid, there was this guy named Jack Scott who had a bunch of hit records, and he was from the Detroit area, and really good records too, you know, kind of poppy rockabilly type stuff. He actually had more hits than Buddy Holly or Gene Vincent or any of those guys. He's mostly forgotten today, but he's really good. Wrote his own tunes. I also, you know, just as Motown started to rear its head, you know, I really love the early Motown stuff like Smokey Robinson, and there was another label in Detroit called Fortune Records. They had a couple hits, a really beautiful record called Mind Over Matter by Nolan Strong. And then as I got into my teens, you know, I started to see the local rock bands like the MC5 and groups like that. But I also was really, I mean, I was just as much inspired by just sort of hearing people, seeing people in my neighborhood. I remember, you know, I would see rock bands in backyard, in people's backyards or in garages, you know, and I mean, I was just as much turned on by them as I was by anything else. So, you know, I'm certainly, I feel like I'm a product of that place, definitely.
Sure.
Even though I've now lived away from there longer than I lived there, but you know, it still really is kind of fresh in my mind in a lot of ways.
Speaking of the MC5, you've had a connection with them in recent years yourself, haven't you?
I did. I got friendly with Wayne Kramer back in the early 80s. We both lived in the East Village in New York, and I had a lot of stuff going on when I met. Actually, no, I got to take that back. When I first met Wayne, I played with my band at CBGB's one night, and afterwards, somebody gave me a note from Wayne saying, you know, I heard the set, and you said you're from Detroit, and I really like what you did, and blah blah blah. And then so I called him soon after that. I got to be friends with him, and we're still good friends. Then when they had a DKT MC5 reunion back in 2004, I got a call from him asking me to play guitar with them. I was completely shocked, you know. I thought it was kind of a, you know, I thought it was a sort of a risky call on his part, but, you know, I mean, I couldn't say no. I loved the fact that he asked me. Mm-hmm. Their body of work, I think, is really, you know, it's about as good as it gets, really. So I got up there and played that music with them. I went on the road in America with them for 2 months, and it was really interesting. I was a little nervous about meeting the other guys, but they turned out to be really great, real down to earth, and yeah, it was really fun. It was interesting for me to kind of step into their movie a little bit, yeah. But I mean, the music was great, you know.
Now, looking back, your second album, Field Day, is one that many cite as a favourite and certainly a critic's choice. Do you remember at the time having a good feeling about that record?
I did. I really loved it, you know. I thought the sound of my first record was maybe a little too airbrushed and a little too polite, you know, for my tastes. And so then I went kind of in the other direction on my second album. You know, I wanted something really explosive, and you know, I always liked the tension of you know, like if you have some like a music with if you have a song with sort of a like a nice melody to sort of like take that song and kind of blow it up. It's, you know, to me that I think of stuff like Pictures of a Lily by The Who.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where the lyrics and the melody are kind of ethereal, but the performance of it is really, you know, hard hitting. And anyway, so we did our second album with Steve Lillywhite, and we had a great time with him. It was really kind of like a party atmosphere. You know, we'd do the sessions and then go out to after hours clubs afterwards, and you know, we just really had a great time. And I thought the record was really nice. You know, I mean, I think maybe it was a little too over the top sonically for a lot of people. I think it scared a few people, but you know, it worked for me. And there's some really nice songs on there too, I think. If you could kind of take the first record, my first record and my second record, and sort of like boil them down,
yeah,
then you know, then somewhere in the middle is what I was trying for. You know,
a lot of people labelled it a power pop album. Were you comfortable with that label at the time?
No, to me it's too narrow of a label. You know, my stuff is I just don't like the idea of it being shoved into this little subcategory. And I'm pretty ambivalent about a lot of the other music that gets called power pop, but I can sort of see it, I guess. You know, people need to hang labels on stuff, I guess. But to me, my stuff, and especially over the years as it's kind of evolved and developed, you know, I think it's just sort of like this is going to sound weird, but you know, like I like this term that I heard Tony Bennett use one time. He just referred to American vernacular music, and that's kind of what I think my stuff is, you know. And it's rock and roll, or you know, you can call it lots of different things. But power pop kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah,
I don't really like that one.
Is songwriting something that becomes easier for you as you get older, or is it something you labour over more now than in the past?
No, it's not so easy, I guess. Especially lately, I've got this batch of songs that I've been working on for a couple of years, and I'm being really meticulous with the lyric writing, and maybe a little too much so. But no, I take it slow. I mean, in the end, I want it to sound like I just came up with it off the top of my head. But you know, in order to get that, for me, it's kind of a painstaking process. But I mean, I write the music really quickly. I can sit down and come up with a song structure and you know, just a musical atmosphere, and have it be complete. You know, I can do that in 45 minutes. But then to go back, and I like the words to really serve the melody, and to have every syllable just kind of glued right in there. And for me, it takes a while to get that right. But I love doing it once it's done.
You've written for movies, songs for movies. How does that compare, writing for a specific assignment as opposed to your regular material?
Well, it's easier. You know, the first time I ever wrote any original songs for a film was this one that came out about a year ago called Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote the theme song, the title song, and you know, I wrote a couple others that didn't get in, but that was the one and only time. I've had lots of songs in movies over the years, but this was the only time I really wrote a song specifically for a movie. And it was a breeze. I mean, it was extremely easy and very enjoyable, you know, because for one thing, the concept was already fixed, you know, before I got on board. It was already, you know, supposed to be about a particular character, and you know, it was just sort of like there was just a lot of material on paper that I could draw from, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if it's a song for myself, I got to sort of pull it out of my imagination, and I have to lean on myself to get the story to come out, you know. But writing a song for for a film, it was just really, I mean, you know, it was just like really quick and painless, you know, and fun.
You've been one to often record the odd cover version of other people's songs over the years. Any specific criteria involved when choosing material to cover?
No, you know, I don't really give those things much thought. They're just sort of like impulses that I act on, you know. Like on my last record, I did a cover of a Prince tune, and that was just a real spontaneous choice. You know, I had the session booked, and I knew who was going to be there. I knew what players were going to be there and what personalities were going to be there, and I just thought, well, this will be fun for us. But you know, I mean, the reason I picked a cover tune is because I didn't have a tune of my own that was finished right at that moment. You know, so a lot of the impetus for doing these cover tunes is just that I'm, you know, if I have gaps to fill and I don't have a song myself. I'm actually trying to back away from that just lately, you know, like the last year or so. It seems like when I go on stage, I try to just play my own stuff. But, you know, I mean, it's fun. You know, it's fun for the audience. I always like it if I go to a gig and maybe for the encore, you know, the band will play some song that's a favorite of mine. I get a kick out of that. It's fun to just sort of see what people pull out of their back pockets, you know. So I guess mostly when I pick a cover tune, it's just something that I think will be fun to do. You know, they're just real kind of spontaneous choices.
What about other people covering your material? Have any versions of your songs that you've heard from other people over the years changed the way you've looked at the song yourself?
Not so much. Although the first person to record any of my tunes was a guy by the name of Robert Gordon. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's sort of like a, you know, like a nouveau kind of rockabilly guy.
Yep.
He made some records in the 70s and 80s, and you know, it was before the Stray Cats, or you know, he was really sort of like the first person to come out and you know, use that imagery and do that kind of material and try to make something contemporary out of it, you know. And he's a good singer too, and it was sort of like one of my first big breaks, actually, because he did about a half dozen of my songs on a couple of his records, and then one of his version of my song called "Someday Some Way" was actually a national hit. You know, it was the first thing I ever had in the Billboard charts as a writer. And now the way he did that song, "Someday Some Way," he kind of straightened out the groove. If you know my record of the song, you know that it has this kind of shuffly, kind of rockabilly swing. It has a sort of a swing to it, you know. Mm-hmm. Whereas Robert's is just sort of straight eighth notes, you know. And during the last couple of years, I've kind of moved over towards Robert's groove a little bit, just because it's really hard for me to find drummers who can play that swinging groove, you know. My brother Robert played on my first record, and I used to go into the rehearsal studio with him and the bass player that I had back then, and I would just drill these guys mercilessly, you know. Especially my brother, I would just say, okay, this is how the bass drum goes. Okay, put the cymbal crash here. I mean, you know, I was very like kind of a benevolent dictator in that band, you know. But he got it, you know. He really could play that kind of that shuffle kind of groove. He played it just the way I liked it for a while. But since then, it's really hard to find a drummer who can do that sometimes. So I just tell the drummers when we do "Someday Some Way" to kind of straighten it out a little bit, play it more like Robert Gordon.
How would you sum up your relationship with record companies over the years?
My relationship with what?
Record companies.
Record companies? Oh, boy. Well, mixed, I guess.
Yeah.
When I first got, you know, when I first got into show business or into the record business, I did something that you really can't do, and that's I developed a case of ambivalence, you know. For some reason, it just sort of smelled funny to me, the whole thing. And, yeah, so I had a sort of a rocky relationship with Warner Brothers Records, you know. I remember I went to a barbecue when my first album was coming out. It was hosted by the guy who was the head of radio promotion for Album Rock Radio. And the bartender at the party was the lead singer of a band from the 60s that I really loved, and they were, in fact, a really brilliant band, you know. I just remember, you know, no disrespect to this guy at all, but I just remember seeing him back there tending bar, and I'm thinking, geez, you know, if my records don't sell, I wonder if I'll wind up tending bar at their parties, you know. And for some reason or another, it just, you know. So I kind of had a, and then when I did my second album, and it was sort of like, you know, sonically sort of a left turn from my first. The label's initial reaction was like, "Wow, you know, we don't know about this," and my response back to them was, "You take this and just leave me alone," you know. And so that didn't sit too well with them.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of like that mostly. But on the other hand, I had a person at Warner Brothers who was really a sweet gal and a big ally for me. It was a woman named Karen Berg, and she and I really liked each other, and we worked very closely together on those records, you know. And so, I mean, I had some allies and pals at the label, and then I had other people that were out to get me, you know.
Do you think you've changed much as a live performer over the years? Is the stage persona still pretty much the same?
Well, I have changed. I mean, you know, I've gotten older, and so I listen to, you know, now and then I hear an older, I hear a recording of a gig, you know, of mine from back in the day. In the first place, I'm usually really pleased because we did really get up there and kill it most of the time, and you know, I was always really intent on trying to engage with the audience, and you know, I used to say funny things between songs and stuff like that, and I guess I still do some of that, but you know, now I play solo a lot. I realized about 10 years ago that, well, you know, like in the first place back in the 80s, I really liked it. I really liked it loud all the time. I like to try to saturate the room with sound, and consequently, I lost a lot of hearing. You know, so I realized about 10 years ago that I needed to, you know, kind of rethink that. So I don't play quite as loud anymore. So I mean, it's really changed in a lot of ways, I guess. But you know, I mean, still at the core of it, you know, I'm still the same person. But
yeah,
you know, I'm older, and just I mean, my skills have really sharpened, I think, too, over the years. I think I'm just, you know, I think I'm a far better musician now. You know, I'm happy to say that I feel like I continue to go forward. You know, and I mean, I still have tons of enthusiasm for what I do, so that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. You've done a bit of radio work yourself in recent times. Tell us about that.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I had to switch phones.
That's fine. You've done a bit of radio work yourself in recent times. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was just something, you know, just something I did for a couple of years to amuse myself. I had a radio show here in the Hudson Valley on a station, and I would just go in for an hour and do this thing. I called it the Bottomless Pit, you know. And it was fun. I had to stop doing it when I was working on the songs for Walk Hard. I just felt like I needed to be focused on that, and so I stopped doing the show. But I loved doing it for a while. You know, I got to do. I just went in and played whatever I wanted to play. You know, and I did a tribute show to Syd Barrett when he passed away, and. You know, I think once I'm about to go make another record. Actually, I got sessions booked in January. I think once that's all squared away, I might try to get another radio show someplace. That was fun. You like doing it, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, I wouldn't do it if I didn't. That's right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. How important has it been for you to have other creative outlets like that away from music?
Hold on, sorry. Oh, man. Okay, what did you say? I'm sorry. Please repeat that.
That's fine. How important has it been for you to have other creative outlets, such as radio and the book that you did not too long ago as well, away from music?
Well, it's been great, you know. I mean, it's you know, there've been various ups and downs over the years, but you know, I'm really happy for the time. You know, I've just I mean, this is really what I wanted to do. You know, I think if I'd have been able to talk to my 18-year-old self and explain, you know, what I was going to go on to do in life, I think I would have felt really good about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like, you know, the fact that there's been, you know, a fair amount of diversity. You know, like I've been in a couple of movies, and that was something I never planned on. That just sort of like came along, these opportunities, you know, unexpectedly. But I was, you know, I'm really glad for the way it turned out, and also especially glad that I'm still doing it, and that you know, like, my sense of possibility at this age is still strong and positive, you know, and so that's good. I mean, show business is hard sometimes, but you know, I just really love this stuff too, you know. I mean, I really still love rock music and electric guitars, and you know, there's just a real joy in it, and being able to play an instrument, you know.
And just before I let you go, Marshall, the new record that you're working on in the new year, what can you tell us about that so far?
Well, it's going to be good, I think. I'm actually, I hate to jinx this by saying it out loud, but I think I'm going to have Jim Keltner on a few tunes.
Oh, wow.
It seems like whenever I play the drums myself, or whenever I try to talk to drummers these days, I'm like trying to channel Jim Keltner. So I thought this time maybe it would be cool to just hire the real thing. And I haven't met him yet, but we're booked. We're supposed to play together in January out in Los Angeles. And I've also got a handful of songs in the can already, so to speak. And, you know, I think it's a really excellent batch of songs. So the goal is to have a record out by springtime of 2009, and I think it's going to work out. It's really looking good. You know, it's been a long time. There was a period where I sort of didn't want to do it ever again, and then there was a period after that where I did want to do it, but I just sort of couldn't. And so it's been kind of a slog.
Yeah.
But I think I'm finally getting to the light at the end of the tunnel, and you know, I think it's going to be really nice.
Fantastic.
This is my life's work, you know, and I feel like I need to honor the fact that I'm alive, and so I do put everything I have into this stuff. It's looking good. I think I'll have something out soon.
That's great. That's something to really look forward to. Hey, Marshall, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad to hear from you, and thanks for calling.
Wonderful to catch up with you.
Maybe I'll see you sometime.
That'd be great to get you down here. Thanks for all the great music over the years, and we're certainly looking forward to the new one in the new year.
I'll keep you posted.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.